Okay, good morning to Monday. I think you got two commissioners today, so I'll just turn it over to you, Sean.
Good morning, Sean Roy, Finance Director. Today we have some budget reviews. The first one is going to be IT. Let me pull it up here. So the first fund we're looking at is the 50201. This is IT's operating budget. The goods and services are going to be our IT allocation that's billed throughout the year. In 2025, we billed the complete value of just shy of $5.2 million. Just as a note, about 3.58 of that in 2025 was to the general fund. And we have miscellaneous of 124,000, a little over budget of 111. And then we have the other financing sources of approximately $18,000. If we recall to last week, we saw this transfer out from the general fund in Carolyn's. And this week we see the transfer in from that one.
Mm-hmm. 2026, didn't we lower this 5.2 or whatever? It was going to be down, and I think you're working on, instead of taking it all in one shot, to try and do it out. Okay.
Yeah, for 2026, it's a little less than a $2 million reduction that we use capital reserves from IT to offset with. And then we'll be likely billing that in April and October following the tax collections.
Okay.
Next up, we have the expenses. So personnel, we're about 1.92 of 2.23 for 2025. Similar in nature, we did have empty spots throughout the year and still have some empty spots ongoing, and there'll be consideration. I don't know if Mac would like to say anything more on that one. Okay. Supplies, we're 2.2 of 2.27. Some of the big ones on this are going to be computer software of a little over $2 million. Minor equipment, including the rollout for 2025 new computers. Some of the large software vendors are going to be, our Insight Publications, Blue Ally, Harris Gov, and some of our other varieties there. If there's any questions on the type of software we're using, or if we want any more detail on that. Okay. Services, we're about 400,000 of a budget of 544,000. The majority of that's going to be professional service fees, and then followed in by internal service fees, telephone, and office supplies as detailed on those expense footnotes. Capital, 22,000 of 25,000. That was mainly for the temporary court that was set up next door. It'll be nice to have in case we need to roll out a temporary court again in the future. So our transfers are significantly less than last year. We transferred 402,000 during the year. 325 of that was to the reserves for IT reserves. And then another 77,000 was for the G-Tax. That's going to be, I believe, sheriff computers.
Oh, the computers.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll see another transfer out for that new fund here in as we move on to the next fund for IT. Any questions on the operating side of things? All righty, we'll go on to the IT reserve account. So not much going on in this one. It's kind of seeing the opposite side of the transfers from the operating fund into the reserve fund. And then our miscellaneous income is going to be all the investment earnings as the dollars have been invested throughout the year. On the expense side, we're once again going to have supplies. We had 151 to Dell and then another 17,000 to Blue Ally. Services, just shy of 140,000 of 300,000, going to be including CrowdStrike, Velocity, and CompuNet, all services for the county. Capital has a big bar there with nothing spent. So we did budget $832,000 of expenditures. We did not expend anything out of that. And then we have the transfers out. This is on a not as common transaction. The $411,000 were to fund the sheriff's equipment replacement fund that now stands independent of IT itself. Currently, the cash balances, we have a little under 4.8 million in reserves at the end of 2020, excuse me, as of last week. And then in the operating fund, we have a little bit less than 1.8 million. We do plan on spending that down, and that's why we took that reduction in the IT allocation this year. And we'll continue to look forward at that as we go through the budget process again. And that's IT, unless there's questions from the board.
Well, ideally, I guess we don't want to always just spend it down to reduce stuff. I mean, we set it there to make sure we're up to date on equipment and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac McCoy, Director of IT. Yeah, so one of the things that we have to do is ensure that we have the scope and the quotes laid out in order to do the equipment replacement.
Yeah. And since I've been here, there's been a lot of angst over PeopleSoft and someday moving out of that. So I'm assuming we've kind of accumulated stuff to eventually tackle that at some point in time.
Yeah, that is
probably still down the line.
Yes, Commissioner, that is part of the plan.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, commissioners, and that was IT.
Yeah.
Ryan, would you like to come join us? All righty, next up, we have the PA's office with a few different funds that they have oversight on. So the first one's going to be the general fund, prosecuting attorney main fund. Have a few different revenue sources here. The first one's going to be intergovernmental. This is mainly payments from the state, both that cover half of Ryan's salary and some of the Blake decision dollars here. We do have an expected accrual here coming in, another 18,000. So that will put our revenues over our expected budget. Goods and services, these are going to be assigned by the court, is my understanding. We are over 12,000 of 6. Then we have our miscellaneous. The other financing sources, these are going to be our transfers in from the remainder of the mental health tax. In 2026, we moved some of these over to the opioid investment earnings.
Did I hear you say the state contributes half? Is that right, Ryan?
Salary, yes.
On your
Just
salary?
just my
your
salary.
Okay, okay.
I mean, it would be nice if they paid half of all 32 positions, but
Well, yeah, exactly. Where I was jumping to was, well, they don't pay crap on OPD.
no, yeah, just half of mine.
Yeah, okay.
Expenses, for 2025, we were 2.75 of 3.05 for personnel. Supplies, we were 44.54. So the supplies include office, normal office supplies and some software. Services, we were a little over a 422 of 395. Some of those are going to, of course, include internal services at 209,000. Dues and subscriptions of 123,000. Professional service fees, 32, and then jury fees of 19.7. You want to talk about those all?
I guess just briefly, the dues and subscriptions. So generally what that entails is our Thomson Reuters subscriptions, which are Westlaw, research, online research, as well as hard books, dues, licensing dues for attorneys, state association, things of that nature. The professional fees, that's like when we need to serve subpoenas that aren't the sheriff's office, whether it be out of state, out of town, potentially in town if the sheriff's office doesn't have the resources at the time. Court expert fees, transcriptionists, certified documents, interpreter fees, stuff like that. The jury witness fees of 19.7, which I don't think those are actually, that's written in, right?
It is now.
Yeah, so at 19,700, that's costs of experts. Let's say when the forensic pathologist who did the autopsy needs to testify at a murder trial, his fee. If there's a forensic accounting, psychologist, maybe in a juvenile sex case or a victim. So I think in one of our homicide cases, Roach, which was the YMCA one, which was back in September, October, when that trial, we had a handwriting expert that we had to have testify. So that's generally what entails in that jury witness fee item. And obviously tough to predict, right? So last year we had 3 homicide trials back to back to back. I'm trying to remember if we had a 4th one, but we can have a year of no homicide trials, or we could have a year where we have 3 or 4 homicide trials. So a lot of these things are tough to predict on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah.
The next fund we're talking about is child support services. This is also in the general fund. Year-to-date 2025, we've collected $329,000 of the $600,000 budget. We do have accruals coming in on that one, still about $150,000 worth. So we'll see that go up. I learned something new on this fund, that these are all 100% reimbursement based upon expenditures from the state. So as staff goes up, supplies go up or down, that's going to directly impact the revenues of this section here. So personnel, we were 395 at 513 in 2025. In 2026, one of these positions was inactivated, kind of following the trend of lower actuals compared to budget in previous years. We have our supplies, and then we have our services. 35 of 44, 27,000 of that was internal services, followed by some professional services and postage. But once again, these are 100% reimbursable by the state.
Yeah. Brian, are these employees dedicated to this, or do they do other things for, and we just bill their time that they work on this particular thing?
We currently have 2 support staff employees. We used to have 4. And we have 1.8 attorneys. So yeah, these 3. So we have a full-time attorney, and then we have an attorney that is 0.8, 4 days a week. So all of their services are directly to child support.
All right.
Before we leave the general fund, any general fund questions overall?
And I think that just briefly, I think the reimbursement rate on the child support services is like 105% from the state.
So he's saying we make money on it.
And I guess in recent years, one thing we have done in that regard is we've taken over Wahkiakum County, their child support obligations. So the state as a whole is looking at a lot more regionalization of child support services. And there's also been a downturn in caseload. So that's why the regionalization, obviously reduction of employees that I don't need, stuff like that.
So our next fund is the 14801, this is the Victim Witness Fund. So the first funding source on this is intergovernmental. It's going to be a variety of state grants and allocations. Current budget is 113 of 155. We do have accruals outstanding on this of about $16.7 thousand. Goods and services, 85 $1,000 that we've brought in of the $66,000 budget. Fines and penalties. And then our general fund transfer in. So this is a $95,000 transfer in from the general fund. Just to keep on radar. Not a lot of expenses in here, you know, it's personnel directly. 234 of 278. Supplies, they had a budget but didn't spend anything. And then our services are mainly going to be internal services again, 46.8 thousand of the 50,500 that were spent. And then we had a little bit of postage as well. The current cash balance of this fund is $273,000 and change. Next one we're talking about is Fund 18001, the Cowlitz County Drug Fund. So my understanding is in prior years, there were more substantial obligations by people that had drug offenses that would fund this fund. In current years, you know, we've seen about $5,000 coming in annually. On the expense side, we haven't had a lot of expenses. Not a lot to show there. The current cash balance is a little bit, is $259,000 and change. For 2026, Ryan was able to transfer some of these funds into the general fund to help offset some of their expenses. Ryan, do you want to say anything about this fund in general?
I think, well, at least my proposal was 25 this year, 25 next year. But this is a fund that is not going to continue to grow. Obviously, courts now don't really impose any legal financial obligations. This is tied to a fine that used to be imposed. So it's grown significantly during my tenure in the last 12 years. If I recall, from about 100 to 260,000. But I've never really utilized the fund. I did spend about $15,000, I think, to help task force out with some furniture years ago, which I got back once task force disbanded. As I said, I want the furniture if task force disbanded. So I haven't really used it for any expenses. And the reality is I don't need to spend it. I'm not going to spend it, but it's a rainy day fund. So obviously part of my proposal for this budget cycle was to help out with personnel. But yes, it's not something that's going to be growing.
And that was the PA's office. Do you have any additional questions? Go for it.
Well, it'd be nothing related to budget. I'm just wondering, do you see anything up in Olympia that's giving you heartburn coming down?
I haven't read my week 5 update email that came in last night yet.
Okay.
I mean, I was up in Olympia for Law Justice Day. Was that last Monday or Tuesday? No, I mean, I'd have to look to see what's still alive.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of things that.
Just an offer, if you have something that we like to talk to our people regularly, and I don't mind mentioning stuff if you see something on your radar.
Yeah, our state association, generally Russ sends out a weekly update every Sunday night. I haven't read it through it yet. On bills that obviously we oppose, support, neutral, as well as upcoming hearings. And
There's a proposal on vacating some sentences and bringing people out earlier. Does it give you any heartburn?
probably depends on what it is. I know there's a parole idea. I don't know if that made it through this week. I think what you're talking about is if anybody maybe picked up a strike offense, so 3 strikes you're out, maybe prior to the age of 18 or 21, I think.
Is that kind of where that's going?
I'll take a look at it and I can touch base with you later today.
Okay. Other than that, that's it. We're kind of in the midst of a bunch of stupidity up there, so I like keep on top of it.
Beginning of the year, every year.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time this morning, commissioners.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Agenda items tomorrow, it's just Public Works? Okay. I didn't even see any vouchers tomorrow. We must have spent them all last week.
Or someone told us we couldn't spend any more. Good morning, Commissioners. Savannah
That
Clement,
boy, Sean.
Public Works. So on the consent agenda, we have a few items, and I'm going to let Susan speak on some of our road items that are going out for bid. I'm here to talk about the Clean Buildings Performance Grant Agreement. I brought this grant to the board, gosh, it's probably been a year. And it finally was executed on the side of the state, and we have it on consent just to go on record. But we are eligible for that $97,750 towards the HOJ project and our capital improvement fund. So I think that's good news. An item that's not on the agenda tomorrow, but does have to do with the Hall of Justice project is we also removed the chiller off of the roof Friday night via crane. Yes, and so we actually plan to try to sell that and recoup some additional funds if we can. So we'll be working on that as well. Yep, so moving right along. And those are the only item, that's the only item I had, unless the board has questions on that. Okay, pass it to Susan.
So good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. For the Roads Department, we have 3 call for bids and 1 bid award. So the first call for bid is for 12,970 tons of aggregate for bituminous surfaces treatment. So this is the aggregate that we use for our chip seal program. And that is on par with what we bid last year was about 12,700 tons. So that we're anticipating a similar bid. So we added a little fluff. So 450,000 is probably what we're expecting this year for that quantity. And that material gets delivered to locations throughout the county for use. So it's convenient to where we're chip sealing. So that is going out for bid with a bid opening of March 2nd.
You're saying last year we spent about 450?
We spent 432,000 last year, so I wouldn't be surprised if I saw 450 this year. Our next bid item, call for bids is for road surfacing materials to be used for public works for the period of May 1st, 2026 through April 30th of 2027, with also with the bid opening on March 2nd. So this is items like shoulder rock, quarry spalls that we call for delivery as we need those items. We bid it to all responsible bidders. Last year we had 1 bidder. The year before we had 4 bidders. So it varies from year to year how many bidders we receive. The next item is very excited. It's the call for bids for the Tower Road Bridge project at Rock Creek Culvert with a bid opening scheduled for March 9th of 2026. This is the project to replace the dual culverts that were washed out in February into March, since it occurred the evening of the last night of February in 2022. That year, we put in the temporary bridge under the emergency road, and this is the permanent bridge structure. We're estimating the amount to be $2,850,000 for the construction of this. This is being paid for partially out of ARPA dollars, and then we have received an earmark from the state commerce to go ahead and put money towards this bridge also. So county road fund dollars, there's about 50,000 going towards this project.
So out of this 2.8550 would be what we would.
Yes, and
come
it's
out of?
actually out of the total project cost, which is 3.7.
Oh, okay.
So we've been using ARPA dollars on the design, and we're also getting commerce dollars. You should see the commerce contract in the next few weeks for signature to fund construction.
Okay.
And then the last item is the award of the purchase of 2 brushes. It's 40 from Ironclad Company for a total of $41,931.88. We received two bids, and this is about $4,000 below the other bidder. So they were really close.
These are the ones we were talking about you use at the landfill?
No, these are for the roads.
This is different. This is
Yes.
for roads, okay.
They're actually the brush units that go on our sweeper machines.
Okay.
And we have to, they're disposable to an extent, right? And so we have to replace them, and that's where we get them.
So there's 40 actual brushes. Then there's 100 brooms, which also go along on that piece of equipment. So they're full assemblies of that.
Wow. We could break our 8-minute record tomorrow. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Always. So we can do it now? Or,
This is in a matter of franchising and telecommunications company.
okay,
In about 15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay. Executive session, 15 minutes. Thank you. Back from executive session, no actions taken. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on our side? I think we're all good, right? All right, we will adjourn. Thank you.